she's not old. I'm saying she has contributed a lot to our community. And I think it will be a good wish for us to start today that one of these days, this society will be developing clearly leaders for our community. I think what we lack today in our society are leaders that care for our people. I am deeply honored to be invited and to give the keynote address tonight in this very important occasion of yours. We are not only here to honor the young leaders for their distinguished contribution to our community, but also gathered here tonight are men and women dedicated to take care of our community, our nurses, the nightingales, the unsung heroes of our community today. As they have said, life is short. Either you waste it or you make it relevant and make a difference in our communities. Today, our society is sick. The Philippine society is sick. It is in crisis. It is beyond refute today that we are in very, very deep crisis as a country. Politically, we have leaders, we have democracy, but our democracy in this land is an elite democracy. This is the democracy reserved only for the few elite in our country. If you are a poor person and running for presidency in this country, no way that you can win an election. Our election was made to be very, very expensive so that to ensure that only the very few can actually compete in our elections. That's why for good men and women like Ma'am Kanda, it will surely be difficult to win an election in this place because election in Jensen itself is really a very expensive one. But it is not that we could not win good men and women in our elections, but I think the problem, the men and women that always win in our election are the very men and women that don't care so much with the problem of our society. They are only interested of their class and of themselves and not of the general public. And that is the problem with our democracy today, because it is an elite democracy, therefore there is nothing much that many of our people can expect. Our economy as well is in crisis. Services and jobs are nowhere to be found. Even if our economy continues to grow, if ever it's growing, it's not growing nowadays, but even if it will grow, it does not create jobs. And we are always on a boom and bust situation. Our problem, we are always on the bust situation rather than on the boom. But political and economic crisis is not new in the Philippines. For those of us who went through long years, the crisis has been coming in and out. Political and economic crisis, we have withered ourselves in the crisis of the Marcos dictatorship, the problem with the Estrada government, the economy went up and down, but we all survived as a nation. But as a political analyst and an activist in this country, one of our greatest worries today is not only on the economic and the political crisis we have, because this political crisis, who had been with us for quite some time, the economic and the political crisis developed a new form of crisis in our people, and we call it the poverty of culture. We have a cultural crisis in this country today. For many people who have been in deep poverty for a long, long time, to live without seeing a doctor, without having water, without having education for their children becomes a normal thing today. What would we say of a community whose grandmother never been to school, whose parents never been to school? What do we expect these children? Not going to school. By not going to school, becomes so normal to them. And it also becomes so normal for our many people to accept the reality that there is very little we can do to change the situation. And in fact, many of our people would prefer to go abroad. And many of them are our nurses, actually. To go abroad because of a sense of delusion, because of this cultural crisis that we are going through, that there is no way we can move forward. We are now suffering from a poverty of culture and from a culture of poverty. Many of our people live in a very, very desperate condition today. think they would rather, one probably of the great indicator of the poverty of our people, many of the medical advertisements that you find on television are all garbage. Not therapeutic evidence, but that is the most dominant media advertisement that you will ever see today. And they did not say that you have to go and see our doctors, and people get used to it. They go on herbal and they go on things that probably have a psychological impact, but has no health impact actually. And if these things will continue, what kind of country we are looking forward in 20 years? Unless we do our contribution to change this desperate condition where many of our people are in, then the future will be very, very bleak for us. And our society, instead of caring for those who need care, really did not care for those. In fact, we all know already that we will have a crisis of people in the medical profession in this country. Government is not allotting much money in the health sector. Do you know how much we allocate for health? For education, we allocate about 14 to 15% a year. For health, we allocate only 1% a year. And the priority of the government is to pay for our debt. We allocate 30% of our national budget to pay for our debt. Our government is addicted with debt. Everything that you see is utang. Because the economy is not growing. All the roads and bridges that are being made are all utang today. Anyway, the president will only be president for 6 years. And we start paying our utang in 20 years. Then it becomes a habit and we become addicted to that. The Magna Carta for public health workers was actually passed basically to counter the situation that has been seen already early days, that we will be running out of nurses and doctors in this country. Today, we really have that very, very big problem. And I would like to congratulate you for being here and for staying here. I will not blame you if you leave the country. But what I would like to emphasize today, I congratulate you for staying and being here. And I think it deserves a congratulations for all of us. I know it's not easy for you to be here. And many of you probably have entertained the thought that one of these days you will be out of this country. But when I was a member of Congress, I had the opportunity to meet with our overseas Filipinos abroad. Almost 95% of them living abroad, luxuriously or difficult conditions, they will always tell us they would like to be back home. And many of those who are abroad will be coming back home. The biggest question, what kind of home that we will be coming back? Unless somebody will prepare that home, then you will be coming back, but not to a home that you would like to come back. Our time, given the challenges of our society, demands heroes. Men and women willing to dedicate themselves in healing our nation. We need not be like Rizal and Bonifacio to be a hero. But to be a hero is one that dedicates himself for the cause of others. That is what his heroic deed is all about. We did not even be proclaimed in the newspaper or television that we have done great things for others. I think heroism is not for the public to acclaim, but heroism is something that we live in ourselves in the coming days. And be proud of ourselves as heroes. People who are willing to serve our communities with no other motive but to offer a tender, loving care. There are many people that proclaim themselves they would like to help our community, but their only motive is always a suspect. They are only interested for power and not really to take care of our people. Florence Nightingale, as you all know in the profession, the Lady of the Lamp, the Angel of the Crimea, disturbed by the horrors of the Crimean War, volunteered herself. That was how she started to land it there. She wrote the Minister of Defense